Good morning, grade 11s. How are you? I hope you are well, entering our second to last week of school. There's a quiz up for you today. Please make sure you do that. I had some people requesting that I make the quiz due dates longer. You can just hand it in. It doesn't really matter. I don't really care about the quizzes if you make the due dates. I only put the due dates in there so you can manage your time. A great many of you are not doing work, and then it's piling up, and then you're saying, oh, I'm stressed because I have so much work to do. Well, if you followed the due dates, you'd have something due every few days for me, and that's not a real big deal, is it? But that's whatever. You manage your time the way you want to manage your time. It's your time. That being said, tests, I put up the key for. So you've got to do them. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. The world has due dates. Even in the time of COVID-19, the world has deadlines. I know that's a bad word to choose because of COVID-19. So the world has, sorry. Anyways, you've got to get it done. And you have to have everything done by whatever date I said on the classroom. I think it was June 17th or June 19th. I can't remember. But you've got to have it all done because I have to put some marks in for you. So you've got to get to it. Also, don't bother resubmitting an old quiz. You've already seen the key. Of course you're going to get 100% on it. If I see that it's resubmitted, I'm not going to give you the better grade because you already saw the key. Just do the next thing. Stop looking backwards and move forwards. Alrighty? So, today we are doing, if I'm not mistaken, the last thing in rational expressions. So early next week, I will be giving you a quiz. I'll give you your rational expressions test, and then I'm going to do one lesson on trig, the grade 11 trig. And then that's it. You'll be done for the year. Okay? So, let's get down to it. As promised, here are the answers to the page of work I gave you. Everything highlighted is the answer. So this, because you can't get a square root of a negative number, is undefined. This one, x is plus or minus 2. This one, d cannot be negative 4 or 1, but it is negative 2 or 3. There's the answer to the fourth one right here with the work. You can pause it and look at it. There's the answer to the bottom one. And then this one is tricky here. Of course, you had to cross multiply. When you cross multiplied, you got this equation, which doesn't factor. So of course you do, since it's quadratic, you use the quadratic formula, and you get two answers. Now, of course, one of them would be negative, but how can a length be negative? So the real answer is the positive one. It's approximately 45. Because you got to here, then you simplified, and then use your calculator to get the approximate answer is in yellow. The exact answer is in blue. Alrighty, so you can pause that, look at it. Come to a meeting if you're worried about it. Sorry, Bea. So here we are on page 179. This is the last thing in rational expressions. So, we did rational equations, but that's just like saying you've got a pile of Lego, you know they click together, what can you build? Well, rational problems allow us to use our knowledge of math to answer real life questions. So, rational problems require 4 steps. 1. You decide on variables to represent your data. Now, if you were in my grade 10 class, this is going to be a lot like the very last thing we did with systems. So you decide on variables to represent your data. Number 2, you need to write an equation. Number 3, you need to solve the equation. And number 4, you need to answer the question. Answer the question with the appropriate, and I'm highlighting appropriate, with the appropriate answer from step 3. Because remember, when we do a rational problem, you might get 2 answers, x equals -3 and +7. Well, if you're doing a speed or something, it can't be -3, so you have to use the appropriate one. So let's look at this very first question. Tim takes 4 hours to paint a room, Bob takes 3 hours to paint a room. How long will it take if they work together? Every kid says 7 hours, which you just add them. I don't know why. If Bob can paint it and Tim are working together, how can it take longer than both of them? Of course, it's going to take less time. But every kid says 7. There. Now, there's 2 ways to solve this type of mixing problem. I'm going to show you both. I'm going to split the page in the middle, and I'm going to show you both ways. Step 1 is decide on your variables. So what is the only thing I don't know? I don't know time, so t equals time, because that's the unknown, right? So you have 2 choices. You can either do this, you can do it one way or a second way. So I'm going to show you both. The first way you can do it is you could recognize that Tim takes 4 hours to paint a room, right? So 4 units of time equals 1 room for Tim, and 3 units of time equals 1 room for Bob. They're going to work together, right? So that means these 2 equations have to be added, yeah? But you can't add them because you don't know what t is. So what would you do with that right now and that? Well, you would write an equation. You know you need to do Tim plus Bob to equal the total time, yes? Well, right there, doesn't Tim's time equal, Tim's time equals 1/4, doesn't it? And Bob's time equals 1/3, yes? Right? So, Tim is t over 4, Tim's time divided by 4, plus Bob's time divided by 3 has to equal the only room they're working on. Has to equal 1 whole room. Tim's doing part of it, Bob's doing part of it to get 1 whole room done. Then we solve this. What is our common denominator? 12. I'll use green. This guy needed to multiply by 3, so this guy needs to multiply by 3. This guy needed to multiply by 4, so this guy needs to multiply by 4. This guy needed to multiply by 12. So I get 3t plus 4t equals 12. Do I need the bottom anymore? No. So 7t equals 12. T equals 12 sevenths. So of course you do that math and you get 1 point whatever, and then you turn that into minutes. So calculator's probably not going to turn on, as you are well aware. There it is. 12 divided by 7, 1.714. And of course, to put that into minutes, you do 0.7. Well, I would do this. I would go answer minus 1 to get rid of the 1 hour. Now all of that times 60. 42.85 minutes, so 43 minutes. 1 hour, 43 minutes. So then it only had one answer, so our final answer is 1 hour, 43 min to paint the room. Now I told you there's a second way to do this. The second way to do this is kind of similar. I still have Tim and Bob, right? Still Tim plus Bob, but the way I do the second one is I work out a rate. Now, of course, a rate is like a speed, right? Kilometers per hour. So this rate would be rooms per time, right? How many rooms can you paint in a certain amount of time? So Tim is 1 room in 4 hours, plus Bob is 1 room in 3 hours. And that's going to equal 1 room in I don't know how much time. That's the question. So we just solve this. Our common denominator, everything we need to do. So this, our common denominator, is 12. So of course, this is 3/12 plus 4/12 equals 1 over t. 7/12 equals 1 over t, not 2, 1 over t. And then of course you just cross multiply. 7t equals 12. And then it's the same thing, t equals 12 over 7, and then we solve. So you got 2 ways to do it. The thing I like about the rate is if you're doing like a physics question with speeds, then you're getting used to that. This is the way I like to do it. This is the way it's usually taught. Your choice. So let's do another one. And again, we'll do it both ways. So, James completes the paper route in 40 minutes. Jeff does the paper route in 50 minutes. How long to work together? So, we decide on our variables. James, right, blue is variables, right? James can do this in t divided by 40, because all the time divided by 40, and Jeff would be all the time divided by 50. So we remember, then we write our equation. I think I was writing equations in red. So James plus Jeff to do 1 paper route. So t over 40 plus t over 50 will equal 1 paper route. And then I solve it. So, what's my common denominator? It's 200. This needed to be times 5, this needed to be times 4, and this needed to be times 200. So I get 5t plus 4t equals 200. I forget about the bottom. 9t equals 200. T equals 200 over 9. And then I do the math, and I find out that that is about 22 minutes. If I do the other way, then what's the rate? The rate is a route divided by time. So James does the route. James does 1 route in 40 minutes. Jeff does 1 route in 50 minutes. And together they're going to complete 1 route in I don't know how many minutes. So then you just work it out. Again, it's going to be over 200, 1 over t. So this is 5 plus 9 over 200. Sorry, not 5 plus 9, idiot head. 5 plus 4, right? 9 over 200. I should be doing this in green. 9 over 200 equals 1 over t. Cross multiply. 200 equals 9t. T equals 200 over 9. Same answer. Okay, here we go with our good friend Kyra. So Kyra says she mows the lawn in 40 minutes. When she asks, of course, when she asks, that isn't really asking. Her boyfriend to help, they finish the job in 24 minutes. How long would it take the boyfriend to do it himself, since she's probably only going to sunbathe next time anyway? Again, we'll split it. We could go with Kyra. Excuse me. Kyra would equal t over 40. Her boyfriend, let's call him Billy Bob. Billy Bob, we don't know how long it's going to take him. Sorry, it's not over 40. Time over some amount of minutes. And together, it would have been 24 minutes. So let's set up that equation. We know Kyra plus Billy Bob equals 1 lawn, right? So t over 40 plus t over m will equal 1, right? Well, don't we know that it's going to take them 24 minutes together? So don't we know that this is 24 over 40, and this is 24 over how long it will take him to do it by himself? And then that will equal 1. So let's find m. What is our common denominator? Well, it's 40m. What does this need? It has 40, so it needs m. What does this need? This has m, so it needs 40. What does this guy need? This guy needs them both, 40m. So I get 24m m plus 24 times 40. 24 times 4 is 96 plus a 0, so 960 equals 40m. Do I care about the bottom? Of course not. 24m plus 960 equals 40m. Bring that over there. 960 equals 16m. So m equals 60 minutes. So where's our m? That's how long it's going to take Billy Bob. So by himself, Billy Bob will take 60 minutes. Now, let's go over here and do it the other way. We know Kyra can do the rate is lawns divided by time. How many lawns can you do in the time you have? So Kyra, not Kyrie, Kyra was 1 lawn in 40 minutes. Billy Bob was 1 lawn in t minutes. And together, they're 1 lawn in 24 minutes. And we know that the equation we need is Kyra plus Billy Bob equals together time. So Kyra, 1 over 40 plus Billy Bob 1 over t equals 1 over 24. Find your common denominator. So you could find a common denominator, and we know that it's 960 because we did it over here, 24 times 40, but whatever. So everything's going to be over 960 t. What does that guy need? He needs 24t. We should be doing this in green. 24t plus this guy needs, good morning, this guy needs, he's got the t, so he needs the 960. This guy's got the 24, so he needs the 40t. Right? Then we don't care about the bottom. 24t plus 960 equals 40t. 960 equals 16t. T equals 60. Same answer. Alright, so now let's do this physics question. You read it. I'm going to take a sip of my coffee. So, Jamie rowed his boat 24 kilometers down the Fraser because he failed his end. Needs to get to Langley. Of course, he also needs to get home. Speed with the current is 2 kilometers an hour. Jamie does the whole trip in 9 hours. What's his rowing speed without the current? So, first thing we got to remember is we're dealing with real life. We're dealing with physics, and we remember that speed is a distance divided by a time, right? So when you drive a car, for example, at 80 km/h, that means you are going 80 kilometers divided by 1 hour. So if you continue that, it's 160 over 2, and so on and so on and so on. So of course you also know that if speed equals distance divided by time, distance equals speed times time, and time equals distance divided by speed. So you know all that. So now when you've got a question like this, we need our variables. What's the only thing we don't know? We don't know his rowing speed. So S equals rowing speed. And then it's always good to build a chart for these questions. So there's a distance, there's a speed, there's a time, and he's got with current, and he's got against current. So, how far is he rowing his boat? Well, he's going 24 there, 24 home. Easy peasy. That's the distance. His speed, he's rowing S with the current. The current is helping him, right? So he is getting helped by 2 kilometers an hour, right? What about when he's against the current? That's pushing him backwards, minus 2 kilometers an hour. And time is distance divided by speed, right? So there's a distance, 24, divided by a speed, S plus 2. This one is 24 divided by a speed, S minus 2. What's his, then we have his total. How far did he row? 48. And how long did it take him? 9 hours. So we need to find the S. So, obviously, the time he spent rowing there, time 1, which is with the current, and time 2, which is against the current, must equal the 9 hours he took to drive to do the day. So, time 1 was 24 over S plus 2. Times 2 was 24 over S minus 2. That had to equal 9 hours. Now, we just do the math. The common denominator is S plus 2 s minus 2. This guy needed s plus 2. Now this should have been in red. Sorry. Let's do that. Let's tidy that up. This should have all been in red, so it's easier. Time 1 plus time 2 had to equal 9. 24 over s plus 2 plus 24 over s minus 2 had to equal 9. Now let's solve. This guy needed s minus 2 because he already had s plus 2. This guy needed s plus 2 because he already had s minus 2. And this guy needs both of them, which is s squared minus 4, because he had to have both of them. So I've got 24s minus 48 plus 24s plus 48 equals 9s squared minus 36. Do I care about the bottom? No. So now, let's do some canceling. Negative 48 plus 48 is gone. 24 plus 24, 48s equals 9s squared minus 36. Put it all together. 9s squared minus 48s minus 36 equals 0. That's a quadratic formula. Divide everything by 3. 3s squared minus 16s minus 12 equals 0. Factor that, just like we always do. 3. And when you factor that, you're going to get 3s plus 2 and s minus 6 equals 0. So s has to equal negative 2/3 for this one, or positive 6. Which one of those is possible? Can you have a negative speed? No. So s equals 6 kmh. That's how fast James is paddling. All right, let's do another one of them because they are hard. Read. In a 140-mile bike race, Speedy McWhirly Pedals completes the race in 8.5 hours. But at the halfway point, there's wind and he loses some speed. So, again, s equals speed. So, Speedy McWhirly Pedals has a distance, a speed, and a time. And he's got the first half. He's got the second half. And then he's got the whole race. So, the first half of the race is how long? $70. Second half is 70. Total is 140. Right? Easy peasy. What's his speed? Well, we don't know. In the second half, though, his speed is 6 miles less. So he loses, it's still his speed, but he's losing 6 miles an hour there, right? And then time is always distance divided by speed. 70 over s, 70 over s minus 6. And right here, how long did he take to run the whole race? 8.5 hours. So that had to equal 8.5. Now, what do we know? We know that the time in the first half plus time in the second half had to equal 8.5.
Stephanie's giving them one of those, that's for complication.
We have more paperwork or tickets than like I said, so I think you should ask me.
Just ask.
Yes, and then we'll come.
I'm going to just write because people are talking. So there's the equation. Let's solve it. What is our common denominator? S,
So we'll just check them off. 'Cause we'll
S
leave them.
minus 6. This guy needs S minus 6. This guy needs S. This guy needs S squared minus 6S, because that's what this is. Do the math.
This is good. No, that looks good.
70S minus 420 plus 70S
Oh, then we can just put
equals 8.5S squared minus 52S, because 8.5 times 6 is 52. Do I need the bottom? No. Simplify. 70S and 70S is 140S minus 420 equals 8.5S squared minus 52S. Get your equation. 8.5S squared minus 192S plus 420.
as a name, but it's a band over. And
Don't forget his sister, Eileen.
Eileen, that's right. It's hilarious.
It's so funny because it's true.
Yeah.
Anyway, that
Do this.
is a quadratic equation that doesn't factor. So of course you would use the quadratic formula, which is b squared plus, which is negative b plus or minus the root of blah, 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 blah. And you would get two numbers. You would get 20 and you would get 2.5. Now let's look at those.
No, Sandra?
If S is 2.5, what's 2.5 minus 6? That's negative, isn't it?
I'm not sure she's here.
So this cannot be right. So his speed is 20 miles per hour.
But this is perfect.
And that's where we are. Okay? So you're going to attempt these 4 questions. That's it. And then I'll show you the key on Monday. I'll do a trig lesson on Monday. You'll do your rational review. I'll give you a rationals test. And Monday's trig. And Wednesday's trig. And then that'll be it. I'll give you a quiz on trig. And that's it. You're done for the year. Okay? Hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.